Well, good afternoon or good evening if you're here in the USA. If you're in Europe, then you should be in bed, but I'm glad you're watching if you're in Europe. And it's Super Saturday morning if you're in the Pacific Rim or the Far Asia countries. So thank you for joining us. I am Bruce, Mr. Simpler, Faster, Better, or some people would know me as the guy in the blue shirt. And I'm in sunny California with a wonderful young lady called Valerie. So Valerie, why don't you introduce yourself? And we're going to talk about a riveting subject that I know we have a lot in common about. So over to you, Valerie.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Bruce, for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Mekki. I am a SEO writer and a blogger. The name of my blog is Oh Hello Work Life because work life can be quite interesting and surprising. And it was for me.
You bet. Well, hello, work life to Gracie Ruth Melendez. Hi, Fabulous Friday, she's saying. And Kenneth, or AKA Kenny Dunner, Mr. Flavor the Saver. So he's amazing. I love him to death. And the power of LinkedIn, hey, Valerie, like all the people that support me, including my wonderful guests like yourself, our common ground has been through some conduits, people like Junette and others. And that's how I got to first see your content. And we've really grown up together in parallel, right?
Yes, we have. Yeah, that's the power of LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'm so glad that I went back into it because for a while I wasn't engaging at all when I was in corporate world. I just went in, went out.
I love that term, gazing, like gazing at the traffic or gazing at the view or what?
Just like I only went into when I needed something, right? Like I never gave value to the community. I never stuck around for conversation. If I was needed to look for a job or I needed to find someone for a position I was filling at the corporate world that I was working, or a company that I was working at, then that's when I would use it. But now it has changed so much, definitely during the pandemic.
Well, you said a very important point, which I know is very foundational for you based on all the posts that I see, which is, you have to give before you can get. And just taking that get mindset will beget you nowhere, and that's why a lot of people don't realize it's a personal commitment and it's an investment. And if you do it regularly, which you do and I do daily, then the people that are meant to show up will come to you eventually, right?
Absolutely. Yes. If you share your story, if you give value to the platform, you'll attract the people who will want to engage and start a conversation with you and want to follow you, and it's vice versa. So it really is a community.
Yes, absolutely. Community of collaborators. And so I always say they should spell the word collaboration with a K, because then you could actually say, communication or collaboration is key with the K-E-Y. So, because I like to syncopate words, if you hadn't already figured that out. So that's why I love the Simpler, Faster, Better and the process cleanup stuff that I do. So one thing I didn't pre-warn you of ahead of our warm-up is that I like to do a little segment called Fast Tips. And the reason, I have a selfish reason, and I want to be very open about that. And it's because I've created a new TikTok channel where I want to give people fast tips as it relates to my passion for IndyCar racing. So I'm a big observer of IndyCar racing and what you can learn through that. So that's why I came up with this idea. Why don't I come up with fast tips with my guests? So what would be probably one of the best little fast tips in your job, in your job recreation or recreating yourself that you can reflect upon and share with us? And you can do more than one. So what would be your first fast tip in terms of your job recovery? Yeah.
Job recovery, or we could say job loss recovery,
or you're repurposing or rebranding or any of those things. You can do fast tips for any of it or all of it.
Well, I would say if you have lost your job and you're thinking about not, really ask yourself, do you want to go back to the same position? For me, I was laid off. And so I realized also then that the industry that I was laid off from, it wasn't doing well. So you have to notice the signs, right? Are you staying because you want to stay because it's what you are known to do? You have a background and experience, but is that really going to be the future? And is it sustainable, right? So you have to ask those questions. So that would be the first thing, is like, if you're going to go back into searching for a job after a job loss, what is it sustainable? Do you think you still have a long-term, is it going to still be there? Like, where are you going to go into, especially if you've been laid off?
Well,
so I definitely would ask yourself that.
Yeah, I'll come back to that. I want to summarize that. Hi, Nadal from New York. Nadal is a fellow LinkedIn Live host, and I know he's looking for guests. So you never know, Valerie. You might get
Community
the opportunity.
Collaboration. There you go.
Community collaboration. Hello, LinkedIn user. We're not sure who that is, so if you could let us know who it is. Anyway, in summary of that fast tip, in fact, it happened to me when I went to Texas Motor Speedway back in May, is you got to be able to read the signs, right? If you don't read the signs. Now, in my case, when I went to Texas Motor Speedway, because it was the first time they let people back into the track and they decided to do it at short notice, they actually didn't have any signs up in terms of where to park, where the free parking was, where the paid parking was, and in my case, I took an Uber over there and we didn't have a clue where the guy should drop me. So he literally like dropped me in the middle of a parking lot because we didn't know any different. So great fast tip. Always read the signs and know where the signs are, right?
Yes, absolutely. Pay attention to the signs.
Pay attention to the signs. And you made another really cool point about, maybe it's not a fast tip, but maybe it's a very diligent piece, is do your research, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things you did, because I've seen a lot of your posts about the importance for you on doing research and really taking a sounding board of where you were and what you really wanted to do. So talk a little bit about research for us. That might be helpful.
So for me, when I was in my job search, after I was laid off and then searching for a job again, doing the research was key. But I have to say that I also took a lot of personality tests too. I'm not sure if you know this. I don't share it very often. I just started sharing it recently, but taking like a talent or performance test, because there you could be doing a role for so many years and it just becomes automatic, but then you actually don't know at the core, what are you really good at? Right? Because you're good at one thing, but if you're looking to pivot to do something else, what are you going to extract from that? Because after you don't have a company to lean on anymore, what is the core of what is your strength? So I took that, those types of tests, and it really helped me kind of laser focus on like, okay, I have these qualities. I'm going to look for those jobs that will highlight these strengths that I have.
Right.
So that's part of the research process.
Well, it's really interesting you should say that, because I actually wasted more than 10 years of my career because I didn't know there was that thing called StrengthsFinder out there run by the Gallup organization before it became the StrengthsFinder 2, and it's since been upgraded. But yeah, so I actually had a guy that sat down for coffee with me. So that's the other thing that I started to do when I was doing research, when I was feeling unhappy. I did a lot of one-on-one networking meetings, and this guy said to me, Bruce, what's your top 5 talents? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, have you taken StrengthsFinder 2? And I said, what's that? And he said, here. And I was broken at the time because, I was not in a good place. And he said, hey, it's $28, buy the online version, take the test online, ask for the summary. And then when you've got it, we'll meet again. And it's amazing because I did that and I got my top 5 talents and it was spot on. It was so me. But the really revealing thing is when I sat down, and his name's Kurt Vondermatter, and I'm still in contact with him. Kurt sat down and he said, well, how many of these things do you use every day? And I said, none. He said, how many do you use every week? 1 or 2. He said, how many do you use every month? 1 or 2. And he said, you're in the wrong deal. So, you know, so that was a very revealing piece of that, is do the research, but also talk with people that you know, like, and trust, because they'll ask you other questions that you may not have asked yourself. And that was so revealing to me. It's like, oh man, you know, I've been wasting all my time doing all this, and now I use my top 5 talents sometimes every day, definitely every week. So now I'm way more fitted to what I should be doing, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I wrote an article, and it's on the blog, Oh Hello Work Life, about how I actually took 3 different tests. And because they all have a little, they have
Yeah,
a
I've done.
purpose and different
Yeah, I've done
personality in
different
your
ones.
purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've done a whole myriad of them because at one time in corporate America, it was the in thing to do. You know, let's get this guy tested for this and this gal tested for that, and they kind of went test crazy. So I've been through a lot of them. You know, all the common ones, and you're right, they do maybe point you towards something that you may not have been aware of, or as aware as you should have been, and they're all helpful. So that's really cool. So what was one of the most revealing things? Like in my case, I was totally, you know, out of sync with what I should have been really doing with my talents. What was one of the most revealing things for you?
So I took a test from the 𝗹𝒃 Character Institute, and they're about positive psychology. So the top 3, I believe, was love of learning, and
Right.
committed to like excellence. And so for me, that was telling for me, because it made me want to find a role that will allow me to continue to learn, because I love learning. When I feel like I am feeling very stagnant, that's actually when I'm at the lowest. And right before, in my years in the fashion industry, I was there for over definitely close to 18 years. There are moments in my career where I was just, you know, doing the job, and I was fine with it, raising my family, providing for my family. I'm okay with it, but it doesn't mean that I was fulfilled or happy or lit up. Right. So I was at this point where I was given this time. Yes, I was laid off, but also given this time to, okay, if I had to choose what I'm going to do next, I'm not going to go into something that just because I'm very good at doing, because as we all know, that doesn't mean that you're fulfilled. It doesn't mean that you're living your purpose. It just means that you could do your job well.
Right.
So for me, it helped me figure out what I wanted to focus on intentionally. And love of learning was number 1. And being an SEO writer, you're constantly learning.
Yeah, it's funny because before we went live, we talked about some days it's like learning overload, right? So it can go to the other extreme as well. So there's an English saying, lollygagging around. So if you're not learning, you're just lollygagging around. And that, I don't know if you like that term, but have you heard that before?
Yes, I know what lollygagging is. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
And sometimes it can be like playful and fun, but for me, I think that is very, like, it doesn't last very long for me.
No, and it shouldn't, right? Because if you're not learning and moving forward in today's environment, you're actually going backwards, or that's what I find. Particularly for a more vintage guy like me. I mean, my deal, in fact, you asked a great question today during, you know, the past year. What have you, if you had to reflect upon something, what have you really spent your time learning? And mine was executing technology. I mean, I'm not a techno nerd. I am a techno junior, as it were, but figuring out how to at least use what I was comfortable using and leveraging it like crazy. That to me has been my learning journey in the last year. So give you a live answer to what I've already put on your post. So
yes, no, and in some ways, the post was about, you know, what did you learn during the pandemic? You know, did you learn something about yourself, or did you learn like a new skill or a new language? And for you, like technology, that's awesome, because I think what the pandemic did for us, it really pushed you to either to really get in front of something that you've been wanting to do, or something that you had to get over. And for you, it really pushed you to learning technology to keep that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was,
Yeah.
I was inspired and provoked by Brian Schulman as well. So that helped me a bunch. So I happened to run into Brian Schulman when we were still doing LinkedIn local lives in Los Angeles. And he was there doing a live stream, and he just happened to come up to me, and I had my badge on, and he said, "Hey, Bruce, say something." And I said, like, you know, I didn't even know what to say. And he said, of course, Brian's so gracious. He said, "Hey, this is LinkedIn video." And so he helped me out. But after that, I said to him, "Well, I have no clue what I'm doing." And he said, "Make an appointment with me." And I did. And Brian is true to his word. He helped me overcome a lot of those crazy fears that weren't really real. They were just between my ears. And yeah, I didn't even take selfies back in fall of 2019. That was totally alien to me. And here I am. You are live guest number 85 in.
Yes. And you have your TikTok too. So I definitely like
TikTok. Yeah, I know. Somebody said to me a day, like, what are you doing on TikTok? And I said, I have a strategy. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know why I'm there. I know how I'm going to use it. And if you'd like me to help you get clear about that, I would love to help you. So
great answer.
So they were like taken aback, you know, so, and they said, "Well, I'm 55. I can't." And I said, "I'm 65. And if I can do it, then you can do it." Right. So
that's right.
Yeah. So can't limit yourself, right? And so I think that's part of the recovery process, right? So talk to us a little bit about what was the hardest thing in the recovery process. I think I know from following you for almost a year, but tell me what you think was the hardest thing, and then I'll share with you what I saw was the hardest thing for you.
It's showing up on LinkedIn was really hard. Right.
Wow.
So I shared already, like I only went in there when I needed something, but I had read an article that it was saying something like, if you post something for the next 90 days, you'll see some difference in engagement and your connections. And at that point, I really didn't have anything to lose. And I was already starting to blog, and originally I thought if I could be like an anonymous blogger, but it doesn't work out like that. So anyone who's told you that you could be anonymous blogging, that is not true. If you want your blogs to be read, you have to put yourself out there and market it. There's a lot more time marketing than actually writing. So I what the cost of I wanted the blog to do well. So at the cost of it, I know I had to put myself out there. So thinking that LinkedIn would be the perfect place. And I also was still searching for a full-time job as well too. So there's a lot of things that I had to get to do, but the fear of putting myself out there on LinkedIn was big and real. I thought it was a place of very super professional. I thought you had to have a job to even have commenting or even posts. But that's not true at all.
Absolutely,
it's a community.
Yeah, absolutely furthest from the truth for sure. And I think my observation, can I share?
Yes.
So this is true live, right? We hadn't rehearsed.
Yes,
No. So my observation was you were very timid in a really nice way. But I thought you were also timid, but on the embarrassment side. And I think you blogged about this a lot as well, is overcoming that inside embarrassment of feeling like that, you didn't do as well as you could have done. And yet what happened to you was totally externally driven, but you internalized it and took it very personally, right?
Yes.
So if somebody's in that situation, which I know I've only been let go once, and I was let go at very short notice, literally in 15 minutes or less, early one Friday morning, and it was here in California. And I've never forgotten just how devastated and how emotional I felt about, you know, it's like, what really happened here? And I'll tell you in a minute what I did, but what did you do to recover from that kind of internal devastation? What are the steps that you took?
Well, you're right, spot on when it comes to like how you read. I posted and I put myself out there scared still, right? So
You were very vulnerable, which was nice. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Very brave.
But I did it scared. So even if the cost of doing that really is on the other side, I really wanted to make sure that possibly there could be a difference. Maybe my story can make a difference. And so that's why I started to share, even though I was scared doing it, I still did it anyways. But for me, the road to recovery was a lot of questions, asking questions, taking those personality tests actually gave me confidence too that I needed after feeling that I didn't understand my worth or even a title. I associated my value to a title, and that is not true at all. We are not known for our titles and our roles, because we all know that it can go away at any point, but it really is who you are and what value you bring as a person. And that's what matters and that's what counts. So sitting with those thoughts and journaling really helped me take those negative thoughts out and put it on paper, and that helped. It really did for me, because I overthink a lot, and so when it was on paper, it felt like it really did lead my body. It could just stay there, and I can close the journal and just leave it at that. I know it sounds simple, but it really helped and worked for me.
All right. So I have another fast tip based on that observation, and then I'll come back and tell you what I did to get over my pain as well. So overanalysis can lead to paralysis, right? That's my fast tip. So don't analyze to paralysis. You know, you'll just get yourself all wrapped up and doubting yourself and bent around a post that you don't even need to go there, right? So you can concur with that. So what I did they made me leave my computer, phone, everything. And this was like 6:45 in the morning. My boss was there and he said, "Hey, I want to see you." And he said, "Hey, we don't need you anymore." So by 7:05, I was at the nearest Starbucks. Unfortunately, I had a personal phone. I didn't rely also just on the company cell phone. And I had a personal access to the internet as well through Starbucks. Actually, it was Panera Bread, not Starbucks. And by 7:15, I was dialing my connections that I knew either locally or knew my meaningful connections. And I was saying, "Hey, I just got let go." So my other interpretation of what you did is, if you channel that negativity into action and take massive action, even though you may not know exactly what you're doing with the action, it can lead you. I mean, look at the places you've been since you took that massive action, right?
Yeah, it took me a while, and I did go into like job search mode immediately, but I don't know if you ended up did you end up landing a job when you pick up the phone and start calling?
No, I went into, go ahead. So I went into,
I had the same thing. I went into that because I really wanted to make sure that we had healthcare. So that was my goal. Like, I just gonna try to find a job, but I was coming from the fashion and manufacturing industry. There weren't any jobs. there was nothing. And we were at the beginning of the pandemic. So that only made the wounds worse. Right. I was already feeling down. My confidence level was already pretty low from being laid off. And so to put yourself out there through job applications and not hearing back, that also, that's not helpful either.
No, it sucks. It really does. So, I tell people, so my job loss recovery, it was only once enforced like you through layoff, is that, you know, I worked 12 to 14 hours a day full time for 5 weeks to get my first interview, So, and that was almost 7 days a week. So again, if you're not sure, just take massive action would be my tip, because it will lead you somewhere. It may not lead you exactly where you think you're going to go, but it does lead you. It leads you somewhere. And the other piece of that, if you have a strong work ethic, which I know you do and I do, taking that massive action also satisfies that need for a strong work ethic, so that you don't feel quite as in the toilet as you already are at that time, right? So at least it's some compensation in terms of, hey, at least I'm giving it my shot and my best shot with my work ethic that I'm used to doing and I want to keep doing, right?
Yes. Keep up with that for sure.
Keep up with that. So what's the most unusual thing you did in your job loss recovery? I mean, I know you hooked up with 𝗀𝒏, so that was I watched that whole evolution, which was awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's all about timing, right? Because June and I met on Clubhouse, and that was when everyone was on Clubhouse, because it was the hottest thing to be on. the audio app that you have to be invited to, if people are not sure what that is. And it was just perfect timing, because people wanted to be on there, and when you were in a room, you don't know who you're talking to, you're just sharing your story. And I just shared my layoff story. I was asking about transferable skills, and she was able to answer it, and then we connected on LinkedIn. And then ever since then, it's, I've been very honored and blessed to be kind of her sidekick in certain projects. And right now we have a show with another co-host, Jessica Williams.
Yeah, I've had
and we're working on that.
Yeah, so I've had 𝗀𝒏 as a guest, I've had Jessica Williams, and now I've got the the third most important piece of that triangle, right? Or that triad, as it were. So so a funny little visual story: you can't sit on a stool unless it's got at least 3 legs. Did you know that? So what I tell people about collaboration is you should always collaborate in threes, because if you think about the top of the stool as the collaboration platform, you need at least 3 legs for the stool to be tough and stand up, either to sit on it or stand on it or kneel on it. But I mean, 4 legs is even stronger, but at least 3 legs is the ideal thing to think about if you want to collaborate or make a community to do something else. So I don't know if that's a visual, but
it is. It's perfect visual. Yeah. And I think with 3, you can play off with different personalities too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I do the simpler, faster, better. It's 3 things. And my method helps people save process, steps, time, and money, which is 3 things. So I am a big believer in the power of 3.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yay. So most unusual thing you did?
Most unusual thing that I did during the job recovery. Oh gosh.
Or toughest thing then.
Oh gosh, I don't know why it keeps going back to LinkedIn. But
it's good.
The first article that I wrote on LinkedIn, I was so scared to publish it. The article was around, does your company's culture align with how you are laid off? The reason why I wrote that was because there was a point after reflecting of how I was laid off, of what's such a stark difference of the company that I thought I was working for. When I first said yes to the company, is because to me, it was like very people driven, and the culture was one of those types where it's like we had food trucks come in, and we could play games together. Like it was that type of a culture.
Right.
But when it came time to the layoff, it was so different. It was, this is your last day. We're going to send a box for your computer, because it was during the pandemic, and that's it. I can't answer any questions. That's it.
Yeah.
And I really thought I was a part of the central team, so they couldn't answer any questions for me. The warm, fuzzy feeling that I had while I was working there, it was definitely not there. And there was no empathy or compassion at that moment.
Well, I have Well, the interesting thing there is you only really know the character of a company's culture when they go through tough times. So, it's always easy to have great culture in all the, high five moments, all the woo, all the, when it's all woo and fun. I mean, that's easy to make culture, but culture really counts when the going gets tough. And then that's the other thing I've learned. I learned it from a young engineer that worked for me one time, and he said, Bruce, you got to remember, when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Right.
And I have never forgotten that. I was a young manager, high potential leader like yourself, doing lots of different things. And he didn't say very much, but that I have never forgotten that. And I can remember the intensity in his eyes as he told me that story. And it was funny because sometimes he wasn't too motivated some days, and I've never, his name was Alan, and I said, hey Alan, what are we doing today? And he goes, oh, and I say, okay Alan, are you going to get going, or is the tough going to get going? Right. So we used to play that when he was kind of being lazy or demotivated or both. So it was kind of cool. Well,
he gave him his own piece of medicine.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. Tasted his own medicine.
Well, Tamar just hopped on. Tamar, all the way from South Africa. How about that? Look at that. You are world famous now.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, she's an amazing resource. And talk about when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Tamar's been through some challenging times. So welcome back, Tamar. Good to see you in the feed. And again, that's the other thing. Make sure you keep in touch with people, even if it's once in a while. So that's the other thing I would say is, sorry, Jamaica, not South Africa. Duh. I'm sorry. Take it back. All right. But I knew it was a beautiful country anyway. So too good. So if somebody wants to reach out for help from you, if they find themselves in a job loss recovery, what's the best way for people to do that, Valerie?
So the best way is to connect with me through my blog. There is a way to put in your email, and they come directly to me. I am the team. If you have any questions about it, but I am right now, I'm in the middle of a course. It's called Getting Unstuck for a Career Pivot. And we're just about closing up the beta stage of it. We had the very first group go through it. And basically, it's a course that helps people who are feeling stuck, whether they are there because they had a job loss or just not sure what they want to do next in their career. I think that the pandemic has really given us that time to sit back and say, do I want to spend the next 10 years doing this, or do I want to try something different, right? The risk tolerance has gotten up for a lot of us, right? But they don't necessarily know what to do. So I created a course that guides you through where it starts from the inside and how to take action moving forward. And I'm going to release it in August. So if anyone is interested in that, you can get on the waiting list for the August release.
Right. And that's going to be small group, as I understand it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still
because you like to, you like to be very personable, which is awesome. I love that. And so is it oh hello work life? That's the hashtag, but is it ohhelloworklife.com or?
Yes. ohhelloworklife.com.
Okay. All right. So we'll say that slowly. ohhelloworklife.com. So if Gracie's still on, she'll normally drop that in the comments for us. So that's super cool. And of course, if you're on LinkedIn and a big fan of Valerie's like I am, you can, I'm sure you like direct messaging, right?
Yes, definitely. You can always look me up on LinkedIn, Valerie Mekki, and DMs are great. And please remind me like how you know me, because I always pick up on those messages first. I don't know about you, but I always like a personalized message. What about you, Bruce?
Oh, absolutely. That's we could do a whole different subject about the right and wrong way to use direct messaging on LinkedIn. But so make it personable, make it relatable, because you know, people like Valerie and many others, we get a lot of communication through LinkedIn, and I'm vintage, so my brain doesn't remember stuff like it used to. And so, yeah, make it kind of meaningful in terms of where you saw the content or how it inspired you to reach out to do the direct messaging. And again, if you're seeing this, thank you everyone for being live. If you're watching this as a replay, if you can put in comments, questions, or both under #replay, and Valerie and I will commit to go back and look at those. And so final words, what would be your final tip, Valerie, in terms of job loss recovery? What would be the one guiding principle that you might say to somebody that feels stuck?
To never settle. Never settle.
Never settle. I love that. Good job. Good job, Valerie. All right. Well, hang on for a minute. Thanks everyone for joining us. And if we missed a question, we will go back and answer and or add additional content. So thanks, Gracie Ruth, for helping me out remotely. She is and I know that Valerie and yourself, you need to reconnect, you guys. So, because we're all here in beautiful southern, crazy California, right?
That's right.
All right. Hang on then, Valerie. Good night, everybody.